he's a really good wrestler in the ring. He can work with anybody, big guys, small guys. He's a very compelling personality. And now that TNA has reshuffled what they're doing in so many ways, he's a good person to, help lead that company into the new era of TNA.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Time Machine by Sportskeeda. Of course, you can find us on YouTube under WrestleBinge and download us anywhere you get your favorite podcast. Guys, before we talk about wrestling, I just saw something right before we came to air. I want to share this with you. This is in Casper, Wyoming. Now, if you're in Casper, Wyoming, I suggest you go out and find a flute, and you'll figure out why in just a minute. In an extraordinary turn of events, a semi-truck carrying a shipment of king cobras from a scientific research lab overturned on Interstate 25. Hundreds of venomous cobras were let free.
No, you don't need a flute.
I wouldn't even go down the road in a car.
Call Jake Roberts.
Call Jake, let him go get those snakes. Let me tell you something. King cobras scare the hell out of me. And to think that those things are just running wild in Wyoming right now, they're trying to catch them. How are you going to catch all these hundreds of snakes that are off in the woods right now? It ain't going to happen.
See, I thought a cobra was a bra shared with two people. No? Okay. Anyway, so Teddy's not going to
look here.
Before we get into
wrestling
now. Before we get into wrestling, somebody asked me a question. I was sitting in a suburban area of Philadelphia at a place called Spread Bagelry in Dresher, Pennsylvania. And there's a guy there that watches our show every week. And he just, out of nowhere, he just said, "What kind of bagel does Teddy Long like?" I said, "I don't even know if Teddy eats bagels." So what's the answer, Teddy?
Like a sourdough bagel.
What kind?
Sourdough.
So, okay. And what do you have on it?
Well, I don't know. I have to see what kind of meat they may have. It's just, it all depends.
Okay, sourdough. I will pass it on to him.
Hey, tell him that I enjoy a good sourdough bagel too, and I like mine with butter and cinnamon sugar on top of it.
No cream cheese?
No cream cheese, just cinnamon. It's like cinnamon toast, but on a bagel. Oh, it is good.
See, I'm a onion bagel with tuna salad.
I like to make, I like the cream sometime too, but I like making just a sandwich out of a bagel. I like the bread. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, and they're about the right size. My wife buys these things called mini bagels, and they're only about this big around. And I make sandwiches out of those sometimes because it's just enough. You put enough meat in there, that's all you need. You don't need any.
They also make Mickey bagels.
Mickey, I haven't seen a Mickey bagel.
No, you said mini bagels.
Oh, no, I got you now.
Okay.
Let's talk wrestling now. Bret Hart obviously is an equal opportunity hater. Most people know that Bret has had a disdain for Bill Goldberg, but now someone else is feeling his heat. Booker T and his scissor kick is one of those issues. He says, quote, this is Bret Hart. "When Booker T, did that to me," meaning the scissor kick, "it drove my head into the mat. Between him and Goldberg, they were trying to kill me. That was a really dangerous move. I had to tell him to stop. He couldn't do it to me anymore. He did it to me 2 or 3 times, and every time he did, he drove my head right into almost right through the boards of the mat." Bret Hart just, we talked about this before, and I like Bret, and I know you both like Bret too, but he does seem to carry some kind of grudge when it comes to Bill Goldberg, as he will not stop talking about Bill and all the problems. And Bill has said recently, as a matter of fact, I might even have that I can share with you here. Bill Goldberg and just recently said, "I'm 57 years old. I don't need to prove anything to Bret Hart or to any other human being. The fact is, it was a mistake. I misjudged the super kick in concussing Bret Hart. I was extremely green in the business, and anybody who knows me knows that if I didn't intend to hurt him, then it was an accident. If I intended to hurt him, then I'd be the first one to tell him, and you and everyone else. basically, and I've heard him say he was done saying he was sorry. Does Bret need to let this go? I mean, this is in the past. I mean, why do we keep bringing up people who have hurt him over and over again? Teddy?
Well, I don't know. I'm like I say, I like Bret myself, man. What a great guy, man. I mean, I always go out of my way to go and talk to him whenever we're on these signings together. And to me, you know, I would just let it go because, I mean, it really ain't going anywhere. You know what I mean? It's just old news and they keep dragging it out. And I mean, I think earlier Goldberg did apologize. You know, he said, "Hey, I was green. You know, I didn't know." You know what I mean? So I don't know what else you can do. And like I said, I never did knew he had a problem with Booker. You know what I mean? So I like I said, if it was me, this old news and just let this go and just you know, kind of move on.
Yeah, Bill, what are your thoughts? I mean, it does seem to me that it's not getting him anywhere, and it just makes him look bad after a while because he seems to keep talking about it over and over again.
Well, he's never going to forgive Bill Goldberg. He's made that very clear. He's made it no matter whether Goldberg was green or whatever at that point. The thing with Booker T surprised me because that was a regular move that Booker T did in every one of his matches, pretty much so, because the fans couldn't wait to see the spinny Rooney and that. Yeah. And I never heard anybody else complain about it. So I don't know at what point of, I just don't know how this impacted Bret as much as he says how dangerous it was, because the company kept allowing Booker T to do it and nobody seemed to complain. I tried to call Booker T several times before we went on the air here, and I was not able to get him, but I want to get his take on this before I discuss it any further. I think we need to hear his side of this, and I think he was probably really surprised.
I bet he was. Teddy, you were about to say something else?
Yeah, and also, you know, we got to understand this, guys. You know, Bret is from the old school. Bret was trained in the dungeon. You know what I mean? And so the way Bret was trained is that, you know what I mean, you can make it look like you killed somebody, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and that's the way he was trained, and Bret just looks, I think he just looks to everybody else to kind of have that same mentality. So
my biggest problem, though, is that he continues to, if it was an accident, which is what Bill has said, it was an accident. I was green. It was an accident. I didn't do this on purpose. Then Bret should let this go. Personally, he can hang on to it all he wants, but publicly, I don't see where it does him any good.
Well, he said it changed his whole life.
I wish he would just quit, because I don't want to think as going out against the legend I knew to suddenly become, I'm sorry, Bill, what?
Yeah, no, it changed his whole life. I'm not defending either one of them, but it changed his whole life. It changed him mentally. It changed him physically. It ended his career. So this is why.
But Bill didn't do it on purpose. So why should he be so upset?
I know that. But then maybe it's the root fault of the people who put him into the ring, knowing that he was that dangerous.
Now, I agree with that. In fact, I do think that that's where the fault should lay. It should lay on the people who put Bill in the ring at a time. Maybe he wasn't ready. He said he was green when he did that, and it was an accident. Surely people in the back knew that, you know, he wasn't as clean and crisp as he needed to be. And if that's the case, it's on them. But I do go back to the fact that Bill has said he didn't do it on purpose. I don't think he did it on purpose. He wouldn't have any reason to. So everything just needs to drop. In fact,
Teddy, you've known Booker T forever, just like I have. And through the years, you've known him and seen him work and everything. Had you ever heard anybody say that guy is stiff?
No, never heard that out of anybody.
Smooth as silk.
No. Yeah, you would think that we would have heard more about the scissor kick from other people if it were that bad. So we'll see. I do look forward to hearing what he has to say.
Check out BrainBuster, the daily quiz that tests your WWE knowledge with winning streaks, stats, and more. It's time to see if you're up for the challenge.
TNA has a new champion, and his name is Dolph Ziggler, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion now, which is good news. I like Dolph. We've talked about him on a recent show where we even suggested that he may go to TNA or AEW because he has that championship ability about him, and he had that run as brief as it was in WWE, and I think it could have gone a lot farther than it did, but I think he got hurt or something that had to take him out. But now in TNA, which by the way did like 20,000 people at a recent show, if I'm not mistaken, so they're doing great numbers again. The new heavyweight champion, Dolph Ziggler. Your thoughts, Bill?
Well, that's not his name in TNA, of course. He's using his real name, Nic Nemeth.
Nic Nemeth.
My thought is this, and it was said very well by Ric Flair recently, who commented that WWE never should have let this guy get away from them.
True.
That this guy was a real gem there, and they never really gave him the right up. They gave him championships and stuff like this, but you could have done a lot more. He always reminded me, and I used to tell him this when I saw him backstage, he reminded me of a young Buddy Roberts from the Freebirds. He looked like him, he moved like him and everything, but he's got amazing charisma. He comes across great on TV. He's a really good wrestler in the ring. He can work with anybody, big guys, small guys. He's a very compelling personality. And now that TNA has reshuffled what they're doing in so many ways, he's a good person to, help lead that company into the new era of TNA.
Teddy, what are your thoughts about the new TNA champion?
Oh, man, congratulations to Nick, man. He's a super nice guy. I had the chance, to work with him in WWE. And just every day you saw him, he was the same guy, good attitude. Just unbelievable. So, you never know where your blessings are. So, this right here, this may be his time, you know what I mean? So he gets a good run there. He can go home, celebrate, and just say, he done something good with his life in professional wrestling.
That show is so much better. That show is so much better when they're not in the small studio that they run in. When they go out, for example, they did 3 tapings in Philadelphia, 3 tapings at the 2300 Arena. The stuff looked great.
Yeah, and the sound is different too, which you feel like there's a different feel to it just from the audio version of what you're watching. And I love seeing him in there. I've always said that I thought Dolph Ziggler was one of the best bumpers in the ring. He can take bumps and make them look like he's just destroyed. That's an art form that a lot of people can't do, and he is fantastic at it. All right, let's talk about Mark Henry. This is some big news that I just read about. Mark Henry has recently commented that he would be open to a WWE return. Currently, he is now the new booker for Caribbean Wrestling. All Caribbean Wrestling. Yeah. And he says, quote, I started booking and directing for All Caribbean Wrestling. We're not an indie company. We put on classic shows. We put on elite level shows internationally. It's a lot of fun, and we're going to do a versus show coming up soon with MLW. So big news on Mark Henry there, Teddy.
Yeah, very good for Mark, man. I know a little bit about that company down there. I did talk to them some while back, but they were affiliated with the wrong people, so I didn't want to be associated with that. But good for Mark. Mark is in there now, and Mark is, if he's running that thing, Mark is going to do the right thing, and maybe, that may be something, that might take off for him.
Bill, what are your thoughts?
Well, I interviewed Mark at length a few weeks ago. A lot of that's been run right here on Sportskeeda's WrestleBinge, and he told me about All Caribbean Wrestling and that they have some amazing talent down there that he wants to bring here. So MLW is a good starting point, but he's liked by everyone, and I think that WWE would be open maybe to looking at some of these stars from the Caribbean area. And I think Mark going back to WWE, of course, he wouldn't be a wrestler. He would be either a commentator or a coach backstage. He's got so much knowledge, and he was just so great. By the way, growing up, one of my favorite wrestlers ever was from the Caribbean. His name was Dory Dixon. Teddy, you remember him?
No, I don't.
Yeah, the Calypso Kid, Dory Dixon. He was one of the high flyers, and he was absolutely magnificent. The Caribbean has always produced really great athletes and very compelling wrestling personalities, and you don't see many of them here.
Are there any currently right now?
Oh, I'm sure there are, but I don't know enough about them to. Beside Carlito, yeah.